Hey folks, so after an unnecessarily long grind, I finally managed to get my Brann up to level 60. I've been chipping away at this achievement almost every single day for the past month, and it's taken me around 500 tier 8 delves to get Brann to max level. Now, I can tell you right now that the power gain for leveling this stupid dwarf to 60 is not worth the time investment required, and I would be very surprised if more than 5% of the entire player base actually achieves this before the end of the season. That being said, since I have actually completed this terrible grind, I wanted to create this video to answer one simple question. Is Brann still completely useless even after he has reached maximum level? Yes, the answer is yes, he is still completely garbage, and I doubt that comes as much of a surprise. However, an answer that simple obviously wouldn't make for an entertaining video, so I decided to take things one step further and run a series of tests to determine just how bad a level 60 Brann is. All my tests were done in Kriegvald's Rest on tier 8, as that delve is pretty straightforward and doesn't have many gimmicks that could skew the results. For the first test, I ran the delve on my 630 item level Guardian Druid with the most useless setup possible on Brann. The idea behind this is to effectively disable Brann by setting him as a healer and equipping him with worthless curios. Completing this delve took me close to 11 minutes, so we can now use that as a baseline when comparing runs with a damage-spec'd Brann. For the actual run, I used the Arrowhead Idol and Amorphous Relic, as these curios will generally provide both you and Brann with the largest damage increase. The final time for this test was roughly 7.5 minutes, and while having Brann with me obviously made it faster, this isn't a very impressive time save. As a side note, I also repeated this test on a 608 Prot Warrior just to see if my bear's item level was affecting the results, but both characters ended up getting similar times. It's also worth noting that this 3 to 4 minute time save only compares the difference between having a level 60 Brann and no Brann at all. In actuality, the time difference would be extremely small between my Brann and one that was at a slightly lower level, say something between 30 and 40. My second test was once again on my 630 Bear Druid, but this time I took my Brann into hard mode zek'vir. For reference, when I beat this fight for the first time a few weeks ago, I did so on my Frost DK, and I had my Brann set to healing. At the time, I found his single target damage to be incredibly lackluster, so I was curious to see if anything has changed now that he's max level. Unsurprisingly, no, he is still complete and utter trash when it comes to dealing single target damage. His overall DPS for the fight was only 238k, which is lower than most of the players I've encountered in LFR. If you've been struggling with this boss and were hoping that leveling up your Brann would make things easier, well, think again, because this stupid dwarf does healer damage, doesn't kick reliably, and dies towards the end of the fight. So, in all of the tests I've done so far, it's pretty clear that Brann is being carried. However, I had an idea for one final test which would force Brann to do all of the heavy lifting by himself. I switched over to my Restoration Shaman, which I've only been playing for about a week, and I returned to Kriegvald's Rest. I then equipped Brann with a Ragefelt Idol, a curio that significantly boosts his personal damage in combat, but causes him to constantly rot out and require external healing. I thought that I would be able to casually sit back and throw Brann the occasional heal as he slowly soloed the entire delve. That is not how things went at all. Because Brann can't actually pull things himself, I was forced to run around and flame shock mobs for him to attack. Unfortunately, despite having additional damage from the Ragefelt Idol, he still generates next to zero threat, which meant that a single cast of Riptide was causing all of the mobs to attack me instead. The end result was a stress-filled delve where I spent most of my time kiting mobs and screaming internally as I desperately tried to heal both myself and Brann. Midway through, I decided to check Brann's buffs, and I realized that at maximum stacks of Rage-Filled Idol, he gains a whopping 65% damage bonus. Just wow. As things stand, 65% of dog shit is still pretty dog shit, so this damage bonus would probably need to be closer to 200% for it to feel even remotely impactful. The entire delve took me over 11 minutes to complete, which, may I remind you, is even slower than the run I did on my Druid where I attempted to completely disable Brann. I also cannot overstate how ridiculously stressful this run was compared to all of my other tests. I've had to heal my friend's blood decay as she chained together absurdly large pulls in a +10 Grim Batol 3 separate times, and I would sooner run a 4th Grim Batol than heal Brann in one more delve. The moral of the story is that playing a healer in delves is a masochistic nightmare, and that, once again, Brann is a piece of garbage. Now, with all of that being said, I know I've tried to have a little bit of fun in this video, but the tuning on Brann is actually a serious problem. I understand that he was extremely overpowered when the season began, but Blizzard has now nerfed him so heavily that he is functionally worthless even after reaching max level. I'm one of the biggest advocates for more challenging solo content, but Delves have always been marketed with the NPC companion as a focal point. If Blizzard really doesn't want to buff Brann beyond his current power level, then they desperately need to reevaluate how they design encounters such as hard mode zek'vir in future seasons. Brann being completely worthless might make for a funny running joke, but it also results in a pretty miserable experience right now for anyone actually interacting with Delves. If you enjoyed this video, I'd greatly appreciate it if you could toss it a like, as that'll make me feel less bad about wasting the past month of my life grinding Delves to level up my Brann.